All right, Zach, excited to bring this content to my channel. Let's just jump into it and introduce yourself.
My name is Zach McDonald, aka Zach Mighty. I'm with the High and Mighty and Lamebrain Skateboards.
Nice. So this is an interview. We're like homies for real. Like we've known each other way back. Yeah, no one's gonna remember this, but I kind of did a trunk show, like a brand-driven show called Status Show, and then you were on board with that, and then ended up helping me on the second one.
That's right.
So we go way back. So this is super interesting for all my guys watching, because he actually owns two brands. You have partners, or it's co-owned, or you're the...
Yeah, so it's my brother-in-laws. I have two brother-in-laws that help me out. I do all the creative, most of that stuff. One of my brothers helps me with sales, staying in touch with my sales guys, because I can do that, but it's not my favorite part. And then my other partner helps with logistics and packing orders and all that stuff. So that's kind of our roles.
Amazing. Real quick note, oh gosh, I know this is gonna be a good one already, but that division of labor and having the knowledge of mind that, like, if someone could spearhead sales, I heard you say, as a true entrepreneur right now, I could do it, but it'd be better, and it's best and highest use of what you're doing, basically.
For sure. Once you get into the thick of it, right, there's so many avenues that you don't realize when you're starting off on day one. And if I'm doing sales stuff, I'm taking away from the creative, which is what I'm really good at. So, we kind of all stay in our lanes and we help each other out when we need to. But for the most part, we trust each other to get the jobs done.
Right. Oh God. Couple conversations there. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but partnership, you guys, as you know, can be obviously a huge asset. You get farther with many people, right? But trust, and then forming those relationships, and also working with family, that's a whole nother topic, but it's important. But before we do that version of what this interview would be, because I think we're gonna end up doing I think there's a lot of knowledge that I want you to bring to my channel, because personally, I know you and we've talked to each other. But for those who are just maybe seeing you on my channel, let's go back a little bit. You talked about creative. Let's talk about your design career, and then you have to talk about that event that kind of was a milestone for you as well.
Cool. Yeah. So I worked retail for a long time, and I got tired of retail. And eventually one day, she was my girlfriend at the time. She's like, "Hey, you like t-shirts? Why don't you go back to school for graphic design?" And I'd never touched a computer in my life, like, to design. And I literally went to school and fell into my passion. About halfway through getting my bachelor's, 2011, I entered a contest for Jay-Z's clothing line called Rockaware. I actually submitted it and just forgot all about it, didn't think I stood any chance of winning. I actually got a call like 6 months later, them being like, "Hey, congratulations, you won. Can you be on a plane to New York City in 2 days?" I was like, "Yeah." So went out to New York City, hung out at the Rockaware headquarters for 2 days in downtown Manhattan, met Jay-Z, all this stuff, came back home, and was like, wow, this is what I want to do. A couple months went by, and my brother-in-law was like, "Dude, like, let's just do this. Like, let's go, let's take this and run with it." And so we started our first garage brand in 2012. A lot of growing pains and lessons learned. But so we did that in 2012. About 2015, we folded that up just because it wasn't working. As we folded that up, we started Lamebrain Skateboards, because I worked in the skateboard industry for so long. And the type of stuff I grew up loving, I just didn't see in the market anymore. Funny, tongue-in-cheek, dumb, cartoony graphics. So we started that. After about 6 months, we got picked up by Zoomies, which was huge. We were in Zoomies for roughly 2.5 years, and we decided to start an apparel brand on the side, just out of luck, because I still love streetwear. I grew up loving the golden era of streetwear, Mishka, Mighty Healthy, Acapulco Gold, brands like that. And I kind of looked at streetwear, and the stuff I grew up loving and the stuff you worked in wasn't really out there anymore. So I just started making some graphics, threw it to Zoomies, and they're like, "Dude, let's do a test order." And that was two years ago, and it's just snowballed, and it's been going crazy since then.
So interesting. So we were talking off camera about this whole thing, because I actually wasn't aware of it, but that's amazing. So running two companies now at this point, right? So there's Lamebrain Skateboards and High and Mighty.
Yep.
It's two separate entities. That is wild, and what a crazy transition. So I have so many questions here, but how do you divvy up your time to devote to each company? How does that work?
Well, so I'm not going to lie, the apparel brand drives the revenue, right? So that gets my main focus. Luckily with skateboards though, like I can bang out 4 or 5 skate graphics pretty quickly in a couple days. And then I only show 4 times a year of Lamebrain stuff, you know, so it's just kind of building content, social. So it doesn't take up a lot of my time. Whereas with the apparel brand, I mean, you know, back in the day, 5-6 years ago, you would design collections and they would come out in a year from when they're designed. Now, like in today's industry, like I'm showing something and I'm getting a PO for a 6 to 8 week ship window, you know?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, for printables, right?
Okay.
So I still get about 3 months, but that's still cutting it close. But yeah, so it's a lot faster paced industry now.
Wow. So the cut and sew items are going to be still within that season, or that's the next drop?
Yeah. So like, well, let's take spring, right? I shipped spring to Zoomies in February. They did a PO for my cut and sew in early November.
Wow.
Time frame, yeah.
Oh wow, that is a lot of coordination. Luckily you're DJing the whole thing, so it doesn't need to go through funnel of people. Oh, that's really tight. And then we discussed this also, but you're doing obviously overseas production, so that has to be really tight with your communication with your production as well.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm answering emails at 11 o'clock midnight because it's the first thing in the morning. So, but work's got to get done.
Yeah, we used to have tons of meetings at like 4 in the morning. Our time here in Los Angeles. By the way, a big shout out to AZ. You're coming through from Arizona, right?
Yep.
And then also, I meant to ask you this: when you were going to school and when you had flown out to New York, that was also school for you was in Arizona?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. That's crazy that you're running 2 brands though. I mean, most of the people on my channel are just trying to get one brand off the ground. So I got a couple questions. So first of all, let me say this: when he talks about banging out the graphics and taking care of what a art director or creative director would do, I mean, people don't know this, so I'm gonna say this for you, Zach. This guy's like done his time, a veteran in the game. He worked in publishing. So if anyone, I mean, that's like SEAL team action for graphic design. Bro, I don't even think a designer growing up now will understand the deadlines of publishing.
No, like it was nonstop. Yeah. I'm fast, and publishing made me fast, right? Like I literally can do 3-4 t-shirt designs in a day, you know, once I get on a roll. But I will have a week or 2 where I'm just at a dry spell and I can't think of anything. But like once I'm on a roll, like I just bang stuff out. I'm lucky. I'm not gonna lie.
So my bigger point for bringing that up is there's luck, and then there is like coming from publishing where it's print and there's a deadline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's no art school like, oh, go ahead and take 2 weeks to concept and
it was a weekly publication, so it's not like a monthly thing.
Oh, it was weekly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So actually, I remember when I was having you and thinking of having you help me with graphics, you told me that you worked in publication. I was like, oh, done. Like this guy's gonna be fast and efficient with that whole process. Another question. So what for you kind of running these 2 brands and High and Mighty having like buys that are like both like at once buys, right, for printables, and then you have production and cut and sew. What are some of your biggest challenges, generally speaking, in running the brands?
Well, right now, the biggest concern is with printables, and at like 6 weeks is stock is still so, you know, up in the air with t-shirts with blanks.
Oh, trying to get blanks.
Oh yeah, you know, especially like so I get all my printing done by Mixed Media, who's the Hundreds print shop in LA.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of our best-selling tees right now is on a forest green tee, and I swear every time we get a reorder, we buy all styles stock up, because like as soon as they get more in, I'm getting my next reorder. That's definitely the thing. Like I send off my stuff to Mixed Media, and I'm like sitting with my fingers crossed for like a week, being like, hope they can get the stock, because blanks is still, blacks and whites are cool, right? Like that's not tough to come by, but once you start getting in anything other than black and white right now, it's tough to come by.
So people would be like, hey, what blanks do you guys use? And I still get hit up now. And so in the transition when Gildan bought them, a lot of other brand owners were telling me it was more difficult for them to get all style.
Yeah, they stopped their production in, I think they used to make in Mexico, right? Right. And they stopped that now. So it's definitely a lot tougher to come by.
Hey guys, quick note in the video, we're talking about blanks here. Wanted to give you a couple reasons you might not know why Bella+Canvas is my go-to for blanks. Besides it being one of the top requested brands in blanks already, I bet you didn't know that they're eco-friendly. They recycle every piece of scrap material in their process. Another thing, the FWD or forward fashion line. Sometimes it takes over 3 years to get a trend into a wholesale brand. They have an entire collection based on what is hot right now. So you can integrate the latest in fashion in your brand like right now. This jacket that I'm wearing, which you've seen me wear before, also comes in green. It's the bomber jacket from the forward fashion line. Also color choice. Bella+Canvas has the most color choices of any brand. They have over 300 colors, so think about it. Back to the video. Love to speak to you about the state of retail, because for someone who's actually selling retail, sometimes my audience gets a mixed message from what I say, but just because I speak to a lot of brand owners that get different experiences. And so for you and your relationship with like a big brand like Zumi or big door, a big retailer, you were telling me that brands that weren't prepared kind of got separated. Tell me about that, the growth and that time frame.
We were kind of talking, I was talking with Jordan Bentley from Hypeland. We were talking about during
shout out Hypeland, by the way. Shout out everything Jordan's doing.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about how like COVID kind of separated the cream from the crop, right? Like if your business wasn't buttoned down going into COVID, it kind of separated you guys, right? Like if you were struggling to make production or, you know, get sales as soon as COVID hit, like it really separated everybody. We're real big on community. Like that's a huge part of the brand. Like the name, the high and mighty, the mighty is actually the community. So we spend a lot of time just focusing on the community. We try and build a community and not a brand. And so we've spent the last 2 years in COVID just building this community up. And through building the community, that's how sales come. That's the way I look at it.
Wow, that's gold right there. I love that. Oh my goodness. Man, I'm not gonna lie, it's inspired me to want to do a brand the way that you're approaching it. Also bringing back, because I was just thinking about actually that this week. There's kids that are growing up in whatever this landscape of apparel is, and they'll never know like a golden era of like apparel. And like some of the brands you're shouting out, like there's so many brands in the graveyard that were amazing and doing amazing work.
There were so many good brands, you know, in the mid 2000s, early 2010s, and then it all came tumbling down. But we're bringing it back, John.
Yeah, that's dope. In terms of the growth that you did experience when there's kind of the separation of brands that had their business together, what do you think for you was the difference that made the difference?
This is my rule number one of any brand. I'm going to tell you this right now. Like I think so many young brands come up with a name and they think, hey, this is my brand name. I can just slap this on 5 different color tees and it's going to sell, right? Like it's not going to sell. I hate to say this to you, but like you're not Volcom, you're not Baker. Like,
yeah, you're not Primitive.
These brands have spent 15 years building that brand name. Like you need to focus on graphics. And that's what I focus on with both Lamebrain and the High and Mighty. Like I'm a very graphics driven person. And so I work on graphics, and the graphics introduce people to the brand, which eventually I'll be able to slap a logo on a t-shirt and just sell it. But right now I'm not even to that point yet. So
dope. Oh man, so many jewels in here. This is going to be the first of so many, but have there been any milestones? I mean, this has all happened in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But is there any of the milestones that were like, oh wow, like we're this is gonna happen, like this is gonna go to another level quickly?
I feel like in the last like 8 months, that's when it's really hit us as like this is like the real thing. So in January of 2021, we were in about 50 Zumi stores. As of right now, we're in a little over 300. I'm actually flying to Seattle next week to have a meeting with Zumi's buyers, and they sent me some reports my growth from this time last year to this time this year has been 1,168%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's 1 year's growth.
That's wild. I already know I'm gonna get hit up on this interview via your relationship with Zoomies, but it sounds like with the brands that they're rocking with, because it's important in that separation time you're talking about, the brands that they're really investing with, it sounds like you have like a very tight relationship with them. It's pretty much like a partnership in selling and growing the brand, no?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I can't stress enough. I tell people this all the time. This is an industry of relationships. You can have the coolest t-shirts in the world, but if you're an asshole, no one's going to want to, I'm sorry to speak bluntly, but right? Like if you're an asshole, no one's going to want to deal with you. Or the second you miss a ship date, any of that stuff, the buyer's like, oh, I'm not going to help you out. Like this is an industry of relationships. And like, so I treat those guys how I'd want to be treated, and it works, like I think a lot of people, once they get to a certain place, maybe they get into some big doors, they get this ego that they're above stuff. But like, I've tried to always just keep myself the same old Zach that I was making t-shirts in the garage 8 years ago.
Oh, and I can attest, for as long as I've known Zach, he stayed the same dude. And let me tell you, one for the good guys, like I have so many stories that I will never share on this channel of how horrible and like egotistical, like it's affiliated with hip hop. Well, a lot of my journey, and then there's skate and surf and all those things. Yeah. But sometimes it just brings together like all the cool people from your high school. And like they don't end up being the best managers. So a big inspiration for me was being the leader, art director, creative director that I never saw because there was so much ego. But I'm so glad to hear you say, because if you run in your own things and you're a good person and you have integrity and your morals are in the right place, you can definitely win and end up dominating as well.
Yeah. And I don't concern myself with like other brand sales. I'm not like, oh man, these guys are selling this much, I have to beat them. I think there's enough room for everybody to win, right? Like, so I support everybody and big up the homies, and like I just do me, and like that's what we focus on.
Oh my gosh, that's why we're homies. I think we just have the same idea of all of it. Also, we didn't talk about this, but like you do a lot of fitness and like like people don't know, I'm a huge MMA fan. Sometimes I'd rather just watch my nephew on the softball field. Like me and you are like regular dudes.
Yeah, I am. Like I went mountain biking this morning. Like I love my brand, but it doesn't define me as a person. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I look at it.
Amazing. This is such good content. So I ask everybody this, and this is gonna be a big one for you. So new brand coming out right now, or maybe they have stalled sales and need to like reintroduce themselves. What advice would you give to a brand entering the game right now?
Well, I already gave you rule number 1, right? Which is don't just slap a logo. Number 2 is I think people hold on to something for too long. I did with my first brand. Like I held on to it for too long because I was in love with it, and I was like, yeah, this is eventually going to work someday. And after a while, I had to like tell myself it's not going to. Like it's okay to drop one idea and start something else. Don't feel like this first thing you come up with is what you have to stick with forever. I'm also a big fan of make a couple sample tees and just wear them around. Don't tell your friends, don't tell anybody, right? Because your friends are always going to be like, dude, that's so cool, I'll buy it. And none of your friends will buy shit.
Yeah.
Listen to me right now.
They're like, oh, I'm gonna support you. That means they want one for free.
Yeah. So you make some tees, wear them, see how people react to them. It lets you test the field. And then if people compliment your stuff without you saying, hey, this is my brand, you're onto something. That's a good way to test the market, I think.
Very good. And yeah, so it's not your friends and family. It's when a stranger comes into the shop, comes into Zoomies and is like, oh, I'm not leaving without that jacket, hoodie, or damn, that graphic's crazy. And the brand might be secondary. They're like, oh, I love what that graphic is about, for sure.
Yeah.
Great advice. All right, so you have 2 companies. That's so wild. I'm so happy to do this interview. But where can people reach you to follow your movements?
At The High and Mighty Co. is our Instagram for The High and Mighty. At Lamebrain Skateboards. For The High and Mighty, it's thehighandmighty.com, thehighandmighty.xxx. Thatshitwasloud.com, lamebrainskateboards.com, all that stuff. My personal Instagram is Zach Mighty.
Obviously, guys, you can see the product, touch and feel the product at Zoomies. I can't say that with a lot of brands who are doing direct to customer, so that's amazing. Super happy for all your success, especially watching you do it for so long.
There's few people in this world that like can call me at any time, and you're one of them, so it's always open.
A-Channel, just so that you guys know, collab is coming soon. Big things that we're gonna do with High and Mighty and Lamebrain and Zach over here. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.